Hey everyone, it's Monday, July 14th. You're watching CBC News BC. I'm Benit Brach. We're here in the Vancouver newsroom, and here's what's happening today. Surrey police say a 3-year-old girl has died after being struck by a vehicle last night. Police say the incident happened around 8 o'clock in a residential Newton neighborhood. They say the driver remained at the scene and is cooperating with the investigation. First responders say while efforts were made to save the victim, the injuries were too severe.
But sadly, the 3-year-old girl died. The driver in the incident, he remained at scene and is cooperating with the investigation. SPS's Collision Investigation Unit has taken over the lead of the investigation. And at this early stage, while the cause is still under investigation, our officers do not believe that speed nor impairment were contributing factors.
And Surrey police are asking anyone with information or relevant dashcam footage to contact them. We're going to stay in Surrey now, where over 100 people are displaced after a condo fire in the Guildford neighborhood just yesterday evening. Surrey Fire Rescue says crews were called to a 4-story building located on 153rd Street and 101 Avenue around 7:30 p.m. The crews say that they arrived to find heavy fire coming from the second floor. All residents had been evacuated by the time that fire arrived, and no injuries were reported. The province is urging people to conserve water over the coming weeks, as forecasts suggest much of BC will experience elevated drought conditions. It says recent rainfall in northeastern BC has improved drought conditions in that area, but it is still worsening in other parts of the southern interior, also in the Smilkaveen River, Upper Nickel Valley River watershed, and the Okanagan stream flows continue to decline.
We know how vital water is. It supports everything from food production to firefighting to the fish in our streams. It powers local economies and keeps communities safe and thriving. And we all have a role to play in protecting it.
The province suggests watering lawns less and turning off the tap while brushing your teeth or even washing dishes to help conserve that water. And wildfire crews are battling a new out-of-control fire near Princeton. It's about 14 hectares in size, and it sparked over the weekend. 30 properties are on evacuation order. Another 40 are on alert. The BC Wildfire Service says the fire poses a direct threat to homes and infrastructure.
The firefighters right now and crews on the ground are seeing that rank 2 to 3 behavior. However, they are focusing mainly on the northern and eastern flanks of the fire. They're creating a guard in between the fire and the nearby structures, as well as establishing a hose lay and a wet line. So, that's where they're working the most right now on the fire.
And Martin says there was minimal growth on Sunday, but still the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen is advising people to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. And about 30 kilometers south of Princeton, there are 2 other fires. So one of them is the Placer Creek wildfire that is growing rapidly, more than doubling in size since it was discovered on Saturday morning. Meanwhile, the Lower Young Creek wildfire is now classified as being held, but an evacuation alert is still in place there for extra caution. And that's what we have for you so far. You're watching CBC News BC. Stay with us. BC Today is coming up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Summer is heating up, and that means it is going to be dry. The province is urging people to conserve water over the coming weeks. We're going to talk about trying to hammer that message home for the public. And from the majestic orca to beautiful totem poles to yoga pants, beautiful too perhaps. What iconic symbols best represent BC? Our Justin McElroy is back with another bracket in search of BC's best symbol. Call us on that this hour. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. And thanks for joining us on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television. We're live streaming as well on CBC Gem and on YouTube. And we're live on TikTok, so you can leave your comments there as well. Nice to have you with us this afternoon. I'm Michelle Elliott. Very good to be back here on BC Today. Well, I'm sure you've been feeling the heat as summer kicks into high gear. That also means drought levels are expected to get worse in the province. Now, as you heard in the news, the province says recent rainfall in the northeastern part of BC has improved drought conditions in that area. But as well, drought is worsening in parts of the southern interior, notably in the Similkameen River, Upper Nicola River watershed, and the Okanagan. Stream flows there continuing to decline. Now, the province says as well that drought numbers, levels 2 or 3, saying that things continue to be dry or increasingly dry, still don't explain all that much to the general public. So they're hoping to come up with ways to describe drought and what it actually means for your water supply. Joining me now is Linda Parkinson, Director of Policy, Planning and Analysis for Metro Vancouver's Water Services. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here.
So how would you describe the water supply situation in Metro Vancouver right now?
Right now here in Metro Vancouver, we're in a relatively good position. Our reservoirs are in what we consider the normal range for this time of year. So they're about 83% of their maximum. Our snowmelt is gone. So the reservoirs and like you mentioned in your intro, the streams that feed into the reservoirs we're getting less and less inflow. So what's in our reservoirs right now has to last us right through the summer and into the fall. So we're in a good position right now in terms of the volume in there, but that water has to last us until the rains return. And as we're seeing with climate change, that can happen later and later.
And what do you think is lacking in how we measure drought levels right now, and how that kind of sends the message home to people that, okay, well, we're okay right now, but in the coming weeks, we need to be able to conserve that water until the next rainfall. How do you get that message and hammer it home for people?
Yes, it's very challenging, and it's very challenging here in the Lower Mainland. One of the comments we hear a lot is, we live in a rainforest. Why do we have to worry about water supply? And we're very lucky here that we have the reservoir system and that it refills every year with the rain in the winter. It refills with the rain and the river runoff and the snow melt. But the fact is it doesn't rain very much in July and August and September, and we need to keep that water for that time and for the essential uses that people need water for. I think a lot of the time the focus is on the supply and where the supplies are at. And really, particularly in this region, like once the reservoirs are full, they're full. So the only thing we can really control is demand. And that's where we need local governments educating people and people learning about water conservation so that we can really drive down that demand, because we know in summer that our demand can increase by over 50%. We use 1 billion litres of water as a region typically in winter, but that goes up to 1.5 billion litres at least on certain days in summer. So sustained increases like that really will drive down the level in the reservoirs.
And what would be the impact of that? Yeah, what can you illustrate for people what that means for the water we drink, the water we use, water that's used for food production?
Yeah, indeed. It's all drinking water. It's all drinking water is the message we like to get across to people. And so that 50% of an increase in summer, some of it is increased cooling needs to keep people cold
Right.
from the heat. Some of it is tourism, but the vast majority we know from the data is outdoor use. And of that outdoor use, the vast majority is lawn watering. So if you're using the drinking water to excessively water your lawn in summer, that's water that should be going to the more essential uses, like you mentioned, cooking, cleaning, use in food production, things like that. And so we do know that the majority of that 1.5 billion, that increase in summer, that's coming from lawn watering. In a lot of cases, it's the automatic sprinkler systems, which are set to come on at the start of the year. They come on around 5 p.m., 5 a.m. People are asleep. They're not aware of how much water is actually being put out onto their lawns. And so that has a really big impact on demand. And it's demand for high quality drinking water that's
Right.
going on a lawn instead of for use for drinking or cooking or cleaning.
And that's even with there are restrictions on lawn watering. So how does that how effective are those restrictions then in reining in that demand?
Yes, thank you. So we do have water restrictions every year in lawn watering restrictions every year in the Metro Vancouver region. So across all the member municipalities on May 1st, the lawn watering restrictions come into effect automatically on May 1. And that's really a proactive measure to get people thinking of it early in the year. We also know that at that time of year, a lot of these automatic systems are being set up. So getting the restrictions in place early means that there's the biggest chance that everyone will comply with the lawn watering restrictions. Our lawn watering restrictions are for 1 day a week. So for a residential property, you can water your lawn on a Saturday or Sunday morning. There's exemptions in there for edible plants and for hand watering. But the big guzzlers of water the lawns are restricted to 1 day a week. And enforcement of that is important. Education's obviously important. I think we've been doing a lot on the education front the last couple of years, and then enforcement's also a piece, and the local member jurisdictions enforce those regulations.
And how are they doing?
So they're doing okay, I would say. They're doing okay. I think we could all do a bit better. Like we do see peaks even during the midweek at 5 a.m. And we know that that's even on a regional level. You can see those peaks at 5 a.m. from the automatic sprinkler systems, most likely. So there's some of those that are not just doing 1 day a week, and then we can also see our peak days are falling at the weekends, which is a positive sign, because that means people are likely complying. A lot of people are complying with the restrictions. But just last week is a good example, right? So it rained on Wednesday, and we saw the demand go down. It went down to about 1.2 billion liters, which is still over the 1 billion, but expected in summer. But then this past weekend on Sunday, it was right back up, right? So
As it got
the lawn
hotter, yeah.
watering. Exactly.
Yeah.
A few days of heat, the lawns start to look a bit dry, and folks think that they need to water them again. And so there's a lot of good tips on the It's All Water website for Metro Vancouver, educating people about letting their lawns go dormant, or ways to irrigate deeply so you can get more effective lawn watering. A lot of systems, I see them around my neighborhood. They water the footpath or the sidewalk as much as they water the plants or the lawns. So
Right.
there's lots of ways to be mindful that
Not-
even if you
Yeah, pardon me. Yeah, not needed
Yeah.
there. That's for sure.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The concrete does not need it.
Can I ask you, Linda?
yes.
I'm sorry to jump in, but I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on water metering. Would that be something that municipalities, it would be up to them, right? When it comes to residences, residential use, what's your stance on metering water for residential use?
Yes, thank you. So Metro Vancouver supports water metering as throughout the region, and you're correct. It's each member municipality or city that's responsible for implementing water metering. So we do see a different status throughout the region in terms of the uptake in residential water metering. The ICI sector, as we call it, like the institutional, industrial, and commercial sector, they tend to be fully metered. They're almost fully metered. Certainly the commercial and the industrial users are metered. Okay. But there is different uptake in the residential, and Metro Vancouver does encourage the use of water meters, mainly because it gives people, so the water meter itself doesn't conserve any water, right? Like it's just
Right.
a device to tell you how much you're using. But that information is very powerful, because right now someone could have a leaky toilet, they could have an underground leak. It mightn't be significant enough to show at the surface, but it's still losing a lot of water year round. And the only way you can know if you have that at the customer side, at the residential side, is to have the water meter. And then, for example, if you're still showing a high water use at night when everything's turned off, that's a sign that you probably you likely have a leak within your property. And there's no way to know that unless you have the data and the information that a water meter can give you.
Yeah, it sounds like a conversation that we could continue to have. What's your message to people then as we head into these coming weeks?
The biggest single thing that you can do in terms of trying to keep the water in the reservoirs for essential uses is to comply with the watering regulations and just water your lawn once a week. Let your lawn go dormant if you can, but do stick to 1 day a week watering if you need to water your lawn.
Linda, good to have you.
That's the single biggest thing you can do.
I heard you loud and clear. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Linda Parkinson is Director of Policy, Planning and Analysis for Metro Vancouver's Water Services. It's 12:18. This is BC Today. Well, orcas, totem poles, and bears, maybe even condo glass towers. Yeah, these things scream BC. And CBC reporter Justin McElroy is back with another bracket that pits 64 iconic BC things against each other. No, he's not one of them, but we are in search of BC's best symbol. And you can let us know, do you have a favorite symbol in your province? So stay tuned. In a couple of minutes, you can call in and make your case to Justin himself. You can also start voting on our CBC website. Right now, we are in the animals round. And here's a little bit of a piece that Justin put together to explain.
64 symbols of British Columbia, but only one can win. It's time for the first round of the search for BC's best symbol. There are 16 animals in the bracket, but only 8 will move on. The number 1 seed is the mighty orca, a championship contender, but will it spit out the raven with ease, or can the blackbird swoop down from the trees and make a massive upset? Elsewhere, it's a battle of big versus little, real versus mythical, Quaxi versus Mukmuk, as the massive Sasquatch takes on the Vancouver Island marmot. But there are so many other matchups to vote for today, including the Battle of the Bears, where the elusive spirit bear goes up against the fearsome black bear, and where the Grizzlies hope it's not an NBA game from the 1990s, looking to win against the brown bear. There's also 4 Pacific salmon looking for supremacy, as Chinook faces off against pink, and sockeye and coho match up. But it's up to you to go to cbc.ca/BC to decide which has a chance to be named British Columbia's best symbol.
It's 12:20 now. Thanks for joining us here on BC Today. And BC, we are going to be talking about BC right now, in fact, for the next half hour, the rest of the show, in fact. And if you are doing what a lot of British Columbians do this time of year, traveling around the province, you may be taking in BC's beauty and many of its iconic sites. Perhaps you have spotted an orca off the coast or visited an Okanagan winery. Maybe you've stood in front of a totem pole like I did yesterday, or maybe you've worn some yoga pants. Today, CBC BC is launching a new bracket in search of BC's best symbol. And over the next 5 weeks, you will vote on each category: animal, nature, coastal, and provincial symbols. That's over the next 5 weeks. But today, right now, you can call in and let us know what you think is BC's best symbol. Our numbers are 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca or comment on our TikTok Live. Love to hear from you there as well. And helming all of this, of course, is a BC symbol himself. Justin McElroy is here. Yeah, he's saying no. I say yes. Hello.
Hello, Michelle.
Theme songs. You've got a knack for theme songs, I have to say, though.
Yeah.
That's a good one that you've chosen.
That's, I mean, we want to heighten up the sports competition of this
yeah,
as much
exactly.
as we can.
Chinook versus Pink. Go head to head.
Battle of the salmon.
Fish head to fish head. Why BC's best symbol?
I think, one thing last year I traveled the world. You go to countries everywhere and you notice that every place has different symbols that really matter to them, that say, this is what we're about. Yeah. These are either the things in nature, animals, man-made things that really define us, that we do better than anyone else, that we have a connection to, that spans back generations. And I thought about the fact that as Canadians, there's certain things that we talk about, whether it's igloos or beavers, maple syrup, hockey players. Those are lovely, but when you think about British Columbia, it's often different things. And we have our own set of iconic symbols in this province that we do have a real connection to, that are pretty unique to this place. And so I thought it would be fun to have that conversation, to have the debate of, if you had to pick one in this province, which one is the best? And so that's what we're going to decide over the next 5 weeks. 64 different symbols that were taken from a list of more than 300 that people nominated about a couple months ago online when we asked them. And now we're going to find out which is number one.
I know you've been hard at work on this already for weeks now. And so what is it, do you think, why are symbols so important? I know you talked about how they kind of represent who we are, but why do you think ultimately people will care about what makes BC's best symbol?
I mean, I think they'll care just as much as any other vote on the internet when you have to decide what's better. But I do think, you say, why do we care about symbols? Oftentimes, we don't really think about them unless we're asked to, but they are things where we go, this is a key part of us. This is something we do better than anyone else. When I think about British Columbia, these things come to mind. And the reasons why particular symbols resonate with us or become part of that conversation is fascinating. And it's for all sorts of different reasons, right? And they change over time. 100 years ago, the orca may not have been a symbol in the same way, right? We would have talked about the beaver more because of beaver felt hats from the Hudson's Bay Company. And now that's something we don't. If this was 20 years ago, the pot leaf might have been a strong favorite to win it all. It's still in there, but it's probably not something people think about as much as like BC to the same way they would.
The BC bud.
Exactly. So this is an excuse to sort of have that conversation, to sort of riff on these provincial motifs and shorthand for what defines British Columbia, and to see just what exactly galvanizes people more than any other.
That's so true. Not only is it a geographic symbol, but kind of a time capsule as well. Like, it reflects where we are right now.
Yeah.
I love that, Justin. Before I go to our callers, because we have lots already asking you, what is BC's best symbol? How's it going to work, just for people to figure it out?
So 64 entries divided into 4 categories of 16. So on Mondays, we do the animal vote. On Tuesdays, we do the nature vote. On Wednesdays, we do the provincial symbols vote and the coastal symbols vote. And on Thursday, we do the provincial symbols vote. Voting ends at 9 p.m. each day. So right now, for example, it's the animals going on. There are 8 different matchups happening. So you can vote and you can see that that currently marmot is defeating the Sasquatch by about 60 to 40%. Orca is defeating raven 75% to 25%. The really close matchup in here actually right now is Steller's jay versus bald eagle, which is Steller's jay is the provincial bird of British Columbia. Bald eagle, it's funny, it's American, people think of it that way, but there's actually a huge amount of bald eagles in British Columbia.
Yes.
People nominated it. So Steller's jay is winning just 51 to 49% at this point. We've gotten more than 60,000 votes at this point from across the province on all of these, and it's just a matter of 40 or 50 votes separating the two of those right now.
Just a feather.
Just
Let's take some calls before I go too deep into the puns. Jim is calling us from the Thompson Valley. Hi, Jim. What do you think is BC's best symbol?
Well, for a provincial symbol, I think a big burly logger clear-cutting a forest should be BC's symbol. They are more widespread than the salmon. Most birds, I think, are all across this province, and we should take recognition of that.
The lumberjack.
Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah.
Maybe with a plaid shirt. I don't know. That's
Absolutely. That's what I envision in my head. Jim, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And it's interesting. So Thursday, one of the matchups we have is tree hugger versus logging truck.
Yeah.
Representing the two sides of British Columbia being a place that was so resource dependent and so logging dependent for so many decades. And in recent years, environmentalism has sort of resonated more in terms of people's conception of the province, maybe than it did before. But if you ask people which of those two parts, Jim sort of got at it there, where it's two sides of the same coin.
Absolutely. Jim, what do you think of that, in terms of how people will view that kind of image of a lumberjack? Oh, I think we don't have Jim anymore. Yeah, sorry about that. Jim, thank you very much. And I think you're right in terms of, again, being a representation of our era, of the time that we're in, and how much environmental concerns and the forest industry are still so significant in the province.
And when you see something like that, if you saw a logging truck 50 years ago, what would it mean to British Columbians as a whole compared to today, right? And so symbols always are part of our province or where we are, but they take on different meanings as time evolves and our values change.
Jim, great to hear from you. Thank you very much. The graphics are really well done, by the way. Like, that's art. I see a T-shirt
we got the for sold sale there.
Yeah.
That was a cheeky nomination that a lot of people did. So we'll see how well that does.
Yeah.
We've got a mountaintop. So many people said mountains, but there wasn't one specific mountain that people think about for British Columbia. So it's just we have a generic mountaintop there. It goes up against the Fraser River in the first round tomorrow.
Oh my goodness. I would have to say for myself, the North Shore Mountains, like crossing the Lionsgate Bridge. It was the first thing I really saw when I arrived in Canada, as I made my way to North Vancouver, and just still seeing the lions and the bridge and the mountains. That to me is iconic.
And it's very British Columbia because you say that with an experience in the Lower Mainland, if you live in the Kootenays, if you live on the North Coast, even through the Nicola Valley and Thompson regions, there's enough sort of mountainous areas where people can have their own experiences with that links them to BC in a way that's pretty rare for the rest of the world.
Yeah, there's one that reaches across the province too, for sure. Let's head to the southeast, and Bonnie is on the line in Nelson. Hi, Bonnie. Welcome back.
Hello.
Yeah, nice to have you back. What's the best symbol of BC?
First of all, I'm 79. I used to live in the Spokane Valley and all those logging trucks and everything.
Sure.
I don't think that's an iconic thing because they used to my husband was a firefighter and they used to fall over all over the place. And I don't think that is a symbol because there are workers all over the world doing everything. What I think is the best symbol is the totem pole.
Yeah, sure.
I used to live in Vancouver and I saw the totem pole. I have a beautiful wallet that I got from one of my people in Vancouver that has a beaver on one side and a maple leaf on the other, which is the Canadian symbols. But I think at this time when we are finally recognized as Natives' place in the world and in our province.
Indigenous peoples, yeah.
That's right. I think the totem pole is the perfect symbol for what we are now.
For what we are now, in terms of that coming to grips, recognition and pursuit of reconciliation. Bonnie, thank you very much. I did see a beautiful totem pole at the Squamish Nation Youth Powwow yesterday as well. Hard to see a BC iconography without thinking of totem poles for sure.
Well, and it's so fascinating when we talk about our relation with totem poles and what they stand for, right? Because, of course, they've been in this area, the Pacific Northwest, not necessarily British Columbia as an entire construct for centuries. But for a long time, they were used to sort of sell the idea of settler Canada and this newfound world on the West Coast, and look at all this interesting art that we want to show. And of course, that turns into appropriation over time. And now, over the last 10 years, as different Indigenous groups have retaken and repatriated their own totem poles. So you have these different layers of understanding through time and what they've meant to people, which is really fascinating.
That's absolutely right. And in terms of being able to even, carve, and the empowerment of being able to carve and taking that back as well, which was not able to do as BC was established. So yeah, the context around totem poles, I think, is a lesson for sure in there as well. Bonnie, thank you very much for bringing that up. It's 12:31. We're going to pause for a news update, but we are taking your calls on BC's best symbol. Our numbers are 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone, and you can email bctoday@cbc.ca. or comment on our TikTok live. Lots more. Lots of emails are coming in. I can see them now. We'll get to them, and more of your calls on BC's best symbol. That's coming up after this CBC News Update with Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. A Surrey family is mourning the loss of a 3-year-old girl killed last night after being hit by a vehicle. Few details have been released, but police say they don't believe speed or impairment were factors. Investigators say the driver is cooperating. One person is dead and 2 others suffered serious injuries after they were hit by a vehicle during the Okanagan Grand Fondo cycling event near Penticton. RCMP say the crash happened on White Lake Road near St. Andrews Drive yesterday. The city of Penticton had issued a traffic advisory ahead of the event, warning drivers to expect delays throughout the region and to watch for cyclists along highway routes. And more than 100 people have been displaced following a major condo fire in Surrey's Guildford neighborhood last night. Crews arrived to find heavy flames coming from the second floor of the 4-story building along 101st Avenue. Everybody managed to get out safely, and no injuries have been reported. And now the forecast on the North Coast, clearing this afternoon with a high of 17, highs around 20 with sunshine in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, sunny with a high of 22. Highs in the mid-20s with showers and thunderstorms this afternoon in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, a chance of thunderstorms with a high of 25. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, mainly sunny this afternoon with highs from 23 to 27 inland. That's your CBC News Update from Vancouver.
Thank you very much, Rob. That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. You're with BC Today here on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television, and live streaming as well on YouTube and CBC Gem. We're live on TikTok too, so you can leave your comments there. Lots of emails are coming in on BC's best symbol. Okay, Craig writes, gotta be the Canucks logo. Even non-hockey fans know what it is if you're from BC. That is true. Jan writes, my suggestion is the mason jar. Okay, I get where you're going with this, as it preserves fruit, vegetables, and salmon. Our province is agricultural with a long coastline. From a Canadian perspective, preserving our cultural identity is a focus of our entire country, which has unified all Canadians. My painting is called Preserving the Canadian Maple. And it's an acrylic that communicates how we need to preserve our diverse heritage and preserve our unique Canadian identity. Well, thank you very much. Speaking of art, C wrote us an email to say totem poles and or Haida art. Yes, of course. I can't think of BC without that for sure, right, Justin?
And we have First Nation Northwest Coast Art as one of the entries as well. And as well, the Canucks jersey goes up against Yoga Pants in the first round on Wednesday as well, which I'm looking forward to see, about all the tops versus bottoms there.
Yeah, one more forgiving than the other, perhaps.
Just a little bit. And, the thing is, mason jars, you can talk. There are so many things that people think about that didn't make it at the end of the day, but just a reflection of just the different things people care about.
Justin McElroy is with me. More of your calls on BC's best symbols. Well, Justin McElroy is overseeing our new bracket here at CBC British Columbia, and that is the search for BC's best symbol. Okay, the bracket is going to take course over the next 5 weeks. And so, of course, crunching the numbers and describing why these symbols mean so much is Justin McElroy. We're asking you right now as well on our open line. What do you think makes for BC's best symbol and why? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And you can also email bctoday@cbc.ca or comment on our TikTok Live. And Justin, why don't we go through the rules once again, just so people have a sense of what they can do, where they can go to vote?
Yeah, so it's a series of one-on-one votes. People are able to do so. In the first week, there are 8 votes each day in the 4 brackets: animal, nature, coastal, and provincial. Voting open until 9 p.m. each day. You go to our website, cbc.ca/BC. You'll see the article. There is a series of votes that you can do. So right now you can say whether you think orca or raven should advance, or the sea otter or the cougar, or the Stellar's jay or the bald eagle, and 5 other matchups today. That process will continue each day as we eliminate more and more symbols and then get down to 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, until we have one champion that we say is the symbol that defines this province the best.
How many votes have you had so far?
So far, we've got something around like 50,000 votes already in the first few hours of the day. So people are amped to have these silly and serious arguments. And it just shows that people do have a connection and relationship with all of these different symbols for different reasons and are psyched to see it go forward. And so it's going to be fun as these get a little tougher. Today, they're mostly blowouts, right? Like, for example, sockeye salmon is crushing coho salmon like 84 to 16%, right? Orca versus raven. Orca is just too tough. But as they get closer and we get the real contenders going up against each other, that's going to be fun to see which advances.
Don't tell the raven.
No.
I hear they hold grudges. Our number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone by email bctoday@cbc.ca. And Cody is calling now from Trail. Hi, Cody.
Michelle, hello, Justin. How are you guys today?
Doing just fine.
I just have one question before I give my suggestions. Justin, what Canucks jersey which year of jersey made the list?
We didn't specify because it can mean different things to different people. For me, it's the skate jersey of the 90s, but it may be different for someone else.
For me, I hate to disagree with you, Justin, but I'm going to go all the way back to 1982 with Roger Nielsen sticking the hockey stick with the white towel and 6 of his players in Chicago Stadium.
Stan Steele, Tiger Williams, the Flying V,
the old Tiger Williams. But he did that as a protest because of the ref call in Chicago as we surrender. And then 15,000 people the next game. And Jim Robson said it in a book that he wrote.
There's a BC icon.
White towels.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
My suggestions would be, like I was telling your producer, would be Red Mountain and Molly's Reach.
Oh wow. Okay, you're taking
because Red Mountain is so Roslyn is an alpine town, and also we have a famous Olympian that came from Roslyn, Nancy Green-Rain, who was a Canadian senator and won the very first gold medal in downhill skiing.
Yeah.
And Molly Greech, of course, is iconic to any CBC British Columbia viewer as the backdrop for one of the greatest Canadian television shows of our decade, The Beachcombers.
I love that you've represented the interior and the coast, Cody.
You can't go wrong.
No,
So
you can't.
It's too bad that those two selections didn't make the bracket, but I hope that I hope that they can make it if Justin does it again next year.
There you go.
The bracket's inside of all of our hearts. But no, I mean, if we were doing this in the 80s or the 90s, yeah, the beach at Molly's Reach makes it. But people's memories can fade sometimes, particularly when something is a little bit more pop culture based. It's a little bit more ephemeral then. But it's interesting when you hear different people of what still sparks that memory 35 years after the show canceled.
Well, absolutely. And it sounds like for Cody, there's nostalgia there, right? There's Molly's Reach. There's the 80s Canucks jersey.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I spoke to a historian, Mike Dawson. He is from British Columbia. He co-wrote the book Symbols of Canada. And I asked him, what thing here are you sort of like quietly pulling for? And he said the pirate pack, because from White Spot, because he said, when I was a kid, I had a pirate pack.
Sure.
Now, when I come back to British Columbia, my kids get one too. And so you create an emotional connection with things as well. So there's all sorts of reasons why symbols matter to people.
That's true. And you get a little gold chocolate coin in the pirate pack too. Yeah, who doesn't have good memories of that? Our numbers, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. So that's right. From Monday to Thursday, beginning today, we are highlighting a series of different symbols to represent BC. You go online, cbc.ca/BC.
Yeah.
And just click on the daily voting link and you can answer the polls and vote for your favorite symbol. And today it is animals. We have two birds going head to head, doing very well against each other, the bald eagle and the Steller's jay, right?
It is neck and neck, 51% for the Steller's jay, 49% for the bald eagle. So anyone can still win there.
I do love the Steller's jay. I don't love listening to them, but I do love seeing them.
Well, and it's nice too when you go to the top of a mountain, when you finish a hike, and sometimes they're just there chilling around. It's like an extra little bonus from completing your task.
Is a hiking boot on there? Grouse grind hiking boot or something like that?
Oh, we thought it, but people said Blundstones.
Yes.
But the thing is, a Blundstone isn't made. It's an Australian boot, of course.
Yeah.
So we said only things that like are produced or made originally in British Columbia can get to that. So that's why we have a Gore-Tex jacket, we have a Cowichan sweater,
Yes.
we have yoga pants, we have a Canucks jersey, but less so for the boots.
Fashionable BC. Ben on the line in Maple Ridge now. Oh, speaking of the jersey. Hi, Ben.
Hello, Michelle. You look lovely today.
Well, thank you for calling in. What do you think is the best BC symbol?
So I've been driving around with my 7-year-old son, and this is what we've got it narrowed down to. You have an orca on top, half man, half orca. So legs on the bottom, all orca on top, wearing the national Canadian hockey jersey, skating on an ice rink.
Oh, my goodness.
Eating a spring salmon that's all lathered up with maple syrup, with a totem pole in the background, and whatever bird wins in the sky.
Oh, my goodness. How did you concoct this, Ben?
I have a very creative 7-year-old mind in the backseat.
That'll do it. And what's your 7-year-old's name?
Callan.
Callan.
Say hi, bud.
Hi, Callan. You did a great job. You're very imaginative.
I did not imagine that. No, it's my dad.
It was 50-50. Don't listen to him. He's lying.
Well, thank you very much. I think that's a great idea. I could see maybe do a drawing of that. That sounds like an amazing piece of drawing. A 7-year-old and his dad coming up with that. Ben, thank you so much for the call. Okay, I don't know how to react.
A lot of creativity. I mean, like we heard so many different parts in there, right? And one that Callan brought up that we haven't heard about, but is a favorite here, is salmon, right?
Yeah.
It is so integral to our food systems, our waterways, our habitat,
Absolutely.
by so many different groups. And we've got 4 different Pacific salmon because, of course, Pacific salmon is our official fish, but there are many different types of Pacific salmon. So we have Chinook, pink, sockeye, and coho in its own little mini competition. It looks like next week we're going to have Chinook versus sockeye in the final for the salmon. Already people are arguing over whether saying that sockeye is overrated, that Chinook is the king, and so therefore it should make it. So we'll see what people think.
Speaking of overrated, Marjorie wrote us to say, I don't come from BC, but I think that the Stellar's jay comes over the bald eagle. She feels that is overrated because she says it's an American symbol. Every time I hear a blue jay, it reminds me of Ontario and Quebec. So Stellar's is for BC. Okay, Marjorie, I get visited at home by a Stellar's jay frequently, and
She better get her vote in.
Yeah, you better get your vote in. Sounds like you feel very strongly. We're getting a lot of emails for the totem pole as well, Justin. And Brett Benty writes as well, I think the totem pole is very symbolic of BC, but of Western BC, but not so much the whole province. All of BC have bears, grizzly, black, and Kermode.
And that's interesting. And it's something that we came across when we got all these submissions from people, is that there's a lot of coastal British Columbia things that are based today either on geography or just where different First Nations habitated over the centuries. But it's very different often, the culture in so many ways, from the interior. And so the bears are one of those that's a connective tissue there. But it's part of the reason why we have a coastal and provincial section for this. And I'm sure that it will become up more as a conversation as we get deeper into this about those differences.
Right. Once we get further and further in. One Islander posted on TikTok, BC's best symbol would be clean water in my mind, but I like the eagle if I had to pick one. Ooh, okay. A little counterpoint to Marjorie's email there. Thanks so much, One Islander. And our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and pound 690 on your cell phone. What do you think is BC's best symbol? Michael is next in Victoria. Hi there, Michael.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so I'm going to concur with, I think, the initial caller and say that the totem pole is the obvious pre-contact choice. Because it represents animals. It represents all of the animals, all of the great animals of our area. You know, the orca, grizzly bear, the salmon, the eagle are always represented on a totem pole. And then the post-contact representation, our symbol that I think best represents BC is the bridge. Because we live in a mountainous, obviously the mountains and the water are the geography of our province.
Yeah.
The bridge was a necessary component to, you know, the railway, the roads, connecting islands. I guess you might even include BC ferries and bridges, although that's a contentious issue.
I was going to say, are you voting for a bridge to Victoria?
No, I'm okay with the ferries, even though I spent 4 hours at the ferry terminal yesterday. But I'm okay with that. But I just think the bridge is also what bridges, you know, the cultures together. I think as a symbol, it bridges
really interesting.
You know, the First Nations as well as the settling cultures, and it's obviously a big part of where we live. You know, some people also mentioned Lionsgate Bridge and you know, all of these bridges that connect us to the areas of the province, because they're hard to get to because there's rivers and oceans and lakes, and you know, even in Kelowna there's a large bridge. You know, there's all around we have to have bridges. The Kinsale Trestle is a famous bridge, you know, that was rebuilt, and so I think the bridge is a great symbol. I don't even know, Justin, if you have that on your list or not, but it's one I think that would be a good symbol for the province of BC.
That's a really good one, Michael. Thank you. Really interesting points there that you made.
Yeah, and Michael's enough. The green truss bridge we sort of selected as they're pretty basic, but they're all around the province. They're the most sort of elemental way to get over creeks and small rivers.
Right.
I'm
thinking
all
of them
over
now.
the place. Yeah, exactly. And it goes up against the Ogopogo in the first round in the provincial symbol, so that's going to be a little bit difficult for it. And we also, BC Ferries is also on this list as well. It goes up against SkyTrain in the Battle of the Transportation Systems in the first round in the coastal symbols on Wednesday. So yeah, the things people are coming up with and thinking of are the ones that we got from the over 300 submissions before this began that made sure that these were on the bracket.
Before you even got started. I love that this morning you were on with Stephen Quinn and you talked about the 2 sailing weight as a symbol for BC.
But you got to be able to visualize that. Like, that's the thing with the symbol.
Sure,
is
yeah.
Like,
just like a really frustrated face might be.
Yeah. Or just a...
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sitting in a car. We're going to stay in Victoria, and Ian is calling us now. Hi, Ian. What do you think is BC's best symbol?
Well, hi. Thanks for taking my call. I would go with mountains. My reason for that is mountains are universal. They're ancient. The First Nations experienced them just like colonialists. They're very, very old. They've always been here. More than that, they dominate the BC's topography. Not all folks in BC are in the mountains. This is true, but they are dominant. And other than our neighbors to the north in the Yukon, we're the only place in Canada that has alpine territory. They're back east. I grew up in the Appalachians, and they call them mountains, but they never get into alpine. You know what I mean? So alpine territory, mountains, that's kind of uniquely BC other than our neighbors to the north.
Yeah, and that's come up already a couple of times. Thanks so much, Ian.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like we said, it's not one mountain that people think about when it's BC, although maybe the lines for some, but then Cypress or Grout. The point is that it is something that you can see in so many parts of the province in a way that's pretty distinct from the rest of the country, and why it's the number 2 seed in the nature one. It has to face the Fraser River in the first round. So people care about the Fraser too. It's not a shoe-in to get in. Yeah. But certainly I think mountains will be a prevailing theme of this as it goes on.
Some emails here. Humpback whales, says AJ. And another email from Elizabeth, who writes, how about Justin as a symbol?
People can't be symbols.
I know you tried to tap that down when I first brought it up, but Elizabeth writes, I love these brackets. I am all for Justin being a symbol of BC. Great to have you back. There you go.
Great to be back.
Right, you travel around the world. People just don't forget. Caden is posting on TikTok in response to the One Islanders post a little earlier about the eagle. Caden writes, not Canadian. I'm from Northern California. Welcome. Thanks for being with us. I kind of agree, though. When I picture BC, I see clean water and I like a kayak. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
and it's interesting because I've heard this from people not from BC in the past as well about just how amazing our water is.
Yeah,
and
that's
something
true.
that, with other symbols, you see it. And so you sort of understand it. Whereas maybe water we take for granted as British Columbians because it's always been there and it's so elemental. But it's fascinating to see another person talk about that there.
We also have, we've got the fish aficionados. Aficionados now. I'm just going to dwell on that a little bit. Brenda writes, okay, 7 BC salmonids, 5 salmon proper, plus 2 trout added to the Oncoricus species. I hope I said that correctly, in 1985.
That is true. We did not include chum salmon in the bracket because I went, there's only so many salmon that we can include in 64. And I don't think anyone's going to vote for chum, really. If I'm wrong, you can tell me. But this is...
they play a role.
They do. They play a role.
Yeah.
Maybe just not quite as much as Chinook or Sockeye in people's mind. But yeah,
and the
we'd love to see
trout
Steelhead trout, we heard about that as well. Some people said sturgeon should be in as well. The Vancouver Island sea wolves were also in there too. So you have so many choices. We're so rich for natural beauty and creatures in this province that people have a connection.
This is the proverbial can of worms that you've opened up here. Brian writes, we had when it comes to BC symbols, we had a dogwood tree on our property way back when. I see the dogwood flower on the cover of the 1958 official centennial record book, but I doubt our official flower made the cut or would gather a vote from anyone but me. Sigh, why is that? I have a dogwood pin.
I have a dogwood pin too. And it is in the bracket. It's BC's official flower, so people should know we made sure to include BC's official symbols in here as much as possible, where we've got the bird, we've got the flower, we've got the mammal and the spirit bear, we've got the fish, we've got the Lamosaurus, the official fossil as well. We've got our official flag, and the dogwood goes up against lalberries tomorrow in the first round of the nature bracket.
Oh, that's a good one.
That will be fascinating to see, and that's another, symbols don't go away, but they just fade in resonance for some people, although maybe Brian is wrong and more people care about it today than maybe he thinks.
Yes, and it is in there, Brian, so there you go. Sigh not. Fear not. Let's take one last call here. We have about 3 minutes left, but Mark in Burnaby, what do you think is BC's best symbol?
I think it should be the float plane, simply because one of my mother used to be a big fan of Bruno Gerussi. I enjoyed watching the Beachcombers, but as a younger person, I fell in love with Danger Bay.
Yeah.
And I later studied aviation in college, and having grown up in Ottawa, I've relocated to BC. I call BC home. And it also speaks to the wide-ranging use of float planes, especially throughout history, for whether it's the fur trade or fishing or tourism or transportation. Yeah. How do you not identify with it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mark, thank you very much. And Danger Bay, I grew up on Danger Bay as well. So I'm with you on that.
Did not make the cut, sadly.
Did not make the cut. Darn. Again, it's about the time that we're in. Stanley all posted on TikTok, trees, lakes, and a canoe, and snowshoes. Yeah, those are all really great. Outerwear, I think, is
outerwear. We also got 4 trees in there. So tomorrow, red cedar, Sitka spruce, Douglas fir, and arbutus, which arbutus only seen in a very small pocket of the province, but it's unique to the area and people are really passionate about it. So we'll see which tree makes it out too.
One last one. I know no people in this will maybe do, that's a different bracket, but Bill did write, Terry Fox, for one, speaks to me of the attitude and spirit of many people who volunteer make this a great province. Okay, good mention.
Well, and actually, a friend of mine named Richard pushed me really hard to have Terry Fox in this, and I said people can't be symbols, but we compromised. The Terry Fox statue outside of BC Place has quickly become iconic in its own right and references such an important part of our history. So the Terry Fox statue is a symbol that people can vote for in this.
Oh, that's great to hear. Bill, there you go. You can vote on the Terry Fox statue. And yes, you can go to cbc.ca/BC. Voting starts today. Different categories each day of the week, so you can vote every day. cbc.ca/BC. Justin, thank you for this.
Thanks, Michelle.
So much fun. Justin McElroy.